I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Donji Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new epic rant. And this epic rant is gonna be for the sequel to that CGI hybrid film we reviewed a few weeks ago from Sony called The fucking Smurfs 2. And I'll just say this. The first film before this may have been bad, but at least you could call that a movie. At the very least, you could at least call that somewhat of a harmless children's flick. And it wasn't nearly as insufferably annoying and cringy as this fucking blue turd in the wind was. What's the plot of The Smurfs 2? So, Gargamel's still trapped in the human world, creates these mischievous creatures, apparently called the fucking Naughties. Yeah, they're called the Naughties. So he'll be able to get the Smurf essence. So basically, creates these evil Smurfs just so he can basically kill them. Cool. So basically, there's no point in creating evil Smurfs if you're just gonna kill them in the end. Once they're turned into Smurfs, you're just gonna kill them anyway. So why even make evil fucking Smurfs? It's just a stupid fucking idea. But he discovers only a real Smurf can give him what he wants, and only a spell that Smurf that knows can turn the Naughties into real Smurfs that he can betray. So he kidnaps her and takes her to fucking Paris. Yeah, why does it have to be fucking Paris now? Apparently, it's fucking Paris now all of a sudden. And no, fuck Paris. Instead of finally go to Belgium, they pick fucking Paris. Where he's been, apparently because now he's winning the adoration as the world's greatest sorcerer because of some YouTube video in New York. Somehow he even has the fucking wand back, despite the fact that it got snapped in half and broke in the end of the last one. So it's up to Papa, Clumsy Grouchy, and instead of either Brainy or that Scottish one voiced by Alan Cumming, it's Vanity, voiced by John Oliver. Voiced by John Oliver. Wasted for a paycheck. It's basically, instead of either of those other two, they picked some random character that was barely in the first film to be the newbie to join them. Despite the fact this guy was barely in the first movie. So they go back to New York, they reunite with Patrick and Grace Winslow, and a new character named Victor. So, to rescue her. So as my reaction, I don't like the first one either, but at the same time, it's not one of the worst things I ever saw. Because, the first film has some passable moments at the very least. Because, at least it had the plot of a film, had the story of a film. At least you could say at least it's only just a film for kids, really, and that's it. So, it's just a bad kids film, that is. It's not one of the worst things to piss me off this much. Because it had some minor moments I could get a chuckle out of. Mainly just Gargamel, really. It wasn't too bad. It's not something that makes me want to furiously swear so much. However, I can't say that with the sequel, because it's not any of that. This is actually one of the biggest crocs of shit Sony Animation ever released in their lives. And this was I'm baffled that they thought this was perfect for a sequel to actually go to theaters. This literally feels like a bad direct-to-video streaming project. A bad direct-to-video streaming project pilot for an attempted series that would never take off. They basically take the bad stuff of the first film, and they double crank it up. They make it cringier, they make it cheaper, the animation looks even uglier than it did in the first film. Hell, the CGI looks even worse. And they make the whole story fucking worse. This barely feels like a movie. This barely did. At all. So, how was this made? So, because the first film made money, like $564 million worldwide, of course they announced a sequel for the next 2 years. But it got rescheduled to July 31st, 2013. It was going to be August 2nd, 2013. And director Roger Gosnell, producer Jordan Kerner returned. And most of the cast reprised their roles. Either some who were just there for a paycheck, like Alan Cumming and Fred Armisen, who are just there for a few brief bits, and their Smurf characters, after they leave for New York, again, they basically get out of Dodge, and they're not ever seen or heard from again until the final act. So they began working on a sequel in early 2011 with the writers, and by early August 2011, the first draft was complete. And then, of course, the film went in production in April 2012, and it took place because they chose Paris, apparently. Apparently that was a great idea for the sequel. Let's go to Paris. And of course, this was the last appearance of Jonathan Winters, who would sadly die before this film released. And this ended up being his last film. And apparently Sofia Vergara was supposed to come back for the film, but for one scene, but apparently they just randomly cut her from the film. Apparently, they wanted to do a little cameo for a character, but apparently they had to omit the scene. Or either, I wonder if that was true, or maybe she just didn't want to come back, Or maybe just didn't want to do this shit. And if that was the case, I wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't blame her, she probably didn't want to come back and do this. Maybe that was the case. I'll never know. But after the film was officially shot and completed, The Smurfs 2 would release on July 31st, 2013, and also got bad reviews, but unlike the first one, this movie did not do well. This movie bombed. Yeah, people can say, but it made $347 million worldwide on a $105 million budget. How is that a bomb? A lot of reasons. North America, it made $71 million, and you also have the advertising, the salaries for the directors, the salaries for the actors. You have the whole plane ticket, production, trips, how much those probably cost. So, it's a bomb. It actually is a big, massive fucking bomb. You could see, it's not, is it really a shock they canceled the planned third film and rebooted it with an animated film 4 years after this? Although, it got a different director, but producer Jordan Kerner still produced the animated film. Either way. So yeah. After this, the live-action series from Sony died. They would do another live-action last year again, and they would make it even worse than either of these two. But this is still pretty shitty enough. So here are the epic bad qualities in the story for the Smurfs 2. this is not just one of the most pathetic sequels ever made. This is one of the most pathetic family movies ever made, and one of the worst movies of the 2010s and of 2013. Like, this film is an absolute joke. This film is an embarrassment. You can tell they only made this for the money at that rate because the Smurfs 1 made money. So they just didn't give a fuck. Like, that's either, if you don't know when it takes place, either it takes place 4 years or 2 years after first film, who cares? Like, in the first film they traveled to New York, but now though, they have to go back to the real world because Smurfette's been kidnapped by the Naughties. Yeah, that's it. So-called evil Smurf's name, and it's honestly pointless, but I'll get to them later. So they have to go save from Gargamel and the Naughties. Neil Patrick Harris is back in this film, and they waste him as again. It's Patrick Winslow. Jima Mays just sounds like she's there to take a paycheck. Gargamel is Hank Azaria plays Gargamel again. Unlike in the first one where he was funny, this time around, they actually make him unfunny. Because this time around, unlike the first one where he actually looks like he's having fun playing the role, here he just sounds like he's not having fun playing the role anymore. This time around, like, his comedy is just less funny. Like, the only time he gets a chuckle is like 1 or 2 scenes, and that's it. Or either they're just the same repeated humor his character had from the first one. Right there. Like, all of that. And so, hell, a lot of his scenes have shitty wand CGI. Literally. Like one of his shows, he turns one of his guests into a horribly bad designed toad. A giant ass toad. Or even just use them to push a few people out of the way in line of the Ferris wheel. Or have a whole of fucking tablets. Like, what happened? It's like they didn't even care about writing one of the only funny parts of the first film from the last one in this. And the CGI, like, the CGI is not improved. The CGI looks even cheaper, and it looks even worse. Right there, like the Smurfs look even uglier than they did in the first one. They're trying to make them look more animated, and they failed. Because they look more horrifying. Right here, and the more brighter blue colors are just to make them look more hideous. And the screenplay is also a waste of time. The story just goes nowhere, because there's barely even a story in this film. The first one at least had somewhat of a story. The writing is pathetic. The editing is a disaster. And it's sad this ended up being Jonathan Winter's last film, and he didn't deserve to go out on this. No. Like, this is an example of a sequel that's actually worse. like it's just also like the other comedy that's not involving Hank's character is just unbearable to sit through. So stereotypical. Like, you know what characters are going to do if we're going to even do something, and that's exactly what's going to happen next. Like, it's really so bad. Like, they even triple on all the elements that made the first film bad in the first place, and make them worse. Didn't care for the Smurf characters in the first film, I don't care for them even more in this. Right here, because in this film, they barely feel like they have any relevance at all to the plot. Or the human characters, like hell, some of the human characters could be taken out of the movie. Like, Jima May's character, might as well write her out of the movie because she really does nothing the whole film. Their son Blue, you might as well write him out of the whole film because he barely contributes a thing to the film. Most of the human characters that only play a role are Neil Patrick Harris's character, Brendan Gleeson's character, and just Gargamel. That's really it. So that's the only 3 human characters literally contribute a thing to the story. Like, the movie just decides to have Smurf as the main character, except this time around, still voiced by Katy Perry, who I've never cared for as a singer, and I've especially never cared for in these films. And that's the thing. Nowadays, like, well, although back in the day when this came out, she wasn't as much of a joke as she is nowadays, where most of nowadays, in today's world, she's either once played a judge on American Idol, constantly embarrassing the shit out of herself with unfunny jokes and humor and stuff. And it's one of the reasons American Idol went fucking downhill. Because her shtick on that show wasn't funny. Then like dated Orlando Bloom, and that relationship didn't last, and now she's dating one of the leaders of Canada. Now. Oh, and thinks, oh yeah, don't get me started on the bit where she thinks she's a fucking astronaut. No, you're not. You're not an astronaut. The real astronauts are the astronauts who actually went to outer space years ago in the 60s. Those are astronauts who actually went to outer space. You're outer space in a music video. So what are you talking about? Then Garmel and Azriel scenes together where they had not bad chemistry in the first film, or at least it was somewhat a bit more like the show's chemistry they have with each other. Here, though, most of their chemistry is them either arguing or fighting or repeating some of the same bits right there. Heck, they even repeat the "Are You Dead" gag for like the whole one bit time he's in New York, which is apparently how he got to Paris. Yeah, you have the talent of you apparently have the talent of Christina Ricci voicing one of these evil Smurfs. For some reason, they apparently managed to somehow persuade it to star in this. I don't know why. And then JB Smoove voices this this annoying as shit Taz knockoff for the other one. Or basically trying to get Smurfette to turn against the other Smurfs, but you don't buy it because you know they're going to turn good in the end of the fucking movie. Then you have try to juggle another pointless subplot, because I mentioned Brendan Gleeson's character earlier, because there's a pointless subplot with Neil Patrick Harris's character, where apparently he has to see his stepfather. Brendan Gleeson's character, again, it's just as cliche as a storyline, whether he doesn't like him at all. But apparently throughout that's literally their whole chemistry the entire time. He has to learn to accept him and know it's going to go. Because there's no effort put into it. With all the cringeworthy humor and hilariously bland drama that fails to be drama. Oh yeah, and just another thing. They have the fucking nerve to quote The Empire Strikes Back in one scene. Like, there's one scene with Garmel when he's trying to persuade Smurfette to join him. He literally says, "I am your father. Search your feelings, you know it be true." Why? Yeah, why do you have to reference the best Star Wars film in this crock of shit? They reference a bunch of other great movies in this crock of shit, and I'll get to that later. Alright, so how do we start off? So, we start off with Tom Kane, who's once again back for a fucking paycheck, as our narrator one, who's reading a story to all the other Smurfs about Smurfette's origin, and then it turns out this is a nightmare because she jumps into a pool in front of them, and then turns all gray again, transports Garmel and Azriel to her world, and just wakes up about that. And of course, then Papa reminds her, doesn't matter who you are, what matters is who you choose to be. Like, apparently saw her waking up from her nightmare, like, so how do you know she had a nightmare? Were you peeping on her or something? They don't explain that. And apparently right now they're planning a surprise party for Smurfette. And they try to hide the preparation from her. Though when like Smurfette tries to visit them, like, no, we don't want you around. Get out of here. Like these guys are that much these guys are trying to hide her surprise party, but don't be fucking assholes. And they pretty much send her off. So, yeah, thanks. Now she's probably upset and hurt by you guys. By how you guys arranged all that. Like, you guys could have been less assholes about trying to hide this stuff. Not trying to be rude about some children's film, but here's the thing. What did this film achieve? It didn't achieve anything. It's just utterly charmless. Right there. Like, most of these actors are wasted in their roles, where unlike Neil Patrick Harris's character, who just sounds less interested even more this time, His storyline with Brendan Gleeson is so complicated and it goes nowhere and it's so cliched. And I don't know how the hell they got Brendan Gleeson to star in this. Literally went from after finishing Harry Potter to this fucking movie. Just why? That's just sad. And literally, all his character is just an over-the-top goofball who then literally for the rest of the film gets turned to a duck for almost nearly the entire movie until the final act. So basically, his character also feels pointless, and their subplot feels pointless because he spends the entire movie turned to a CGI duck. And the Smurfs here, these characters, they're just universally awful with their even worse CGI. This time around, the movie barely feels like it's even about them. And they're just there to blast through their stupid slapstick and modern one-liners. Like they literally have a reference to Facebook in the beginning scene in the village. Even you even have cameos of actors like Jimmy Kimmel voicing one of them for like a brief scene. Yeah, that's great because I totally want to hear Jimmy Kimmel, who I've never been a big fan of, never been a fan of his Late Show at all, or as a person either. Like, it's even way less faithful to the source material or any of the good qualities of the first film. And barely any Smurfs except for, like, our four main ones that go rescue Smurfette herself, and the two evil Smurfs. This time around, and instead of being set in New York, instead of trying to maybe finally for once be set in Belgium where the Smurfs are actually from, no, we need to go to Paris instead. Just why? Apparently, yeah, they pick Paris and they don't pick Belgium. They don't pick Belgium where they're actually from. You know? Pick somewhere where they're actually created. They are from they're characters from Belgium. They were created in Belgium. Now, having the concept of bad Smurfs could be interesting, but the sad thing is, it's poorly executed. And it's poorly cliche with how they write these two. With the no good plot and attempts of humor being even worse, like you have literally such cringeworthy scenes of either usually Garmel's shitty CGI turning people into shitty CGI animals. Once Brendan Gleeson's character turns back into a human after the spell finally wears off, he literally tries to catch the Smurfs and are falling for, which I'll get to later, and then turns all butt-ass naked, falls into a camper of towels, and Fanny's all like, I've seen unspeakable things down there. I'm scarred for life. Wow, I wonder where Vanity landed. I wonder where. Yeah, get it, people? Or having this bit, you even have this stupid fart joke with the Smurfs taking a bath, and Grouchy Smurf literally farts. Right there, with even a childish phrase. Even. Like, and the whole, yeah, the one I mentioned that Garmel's not funny in this film, because here's the thing, his funny charm and spirit from the previous film are so downgraded here. Like, this time around, his jokes feel so stale and not funny, and most of his slapstick is the same rehashed stuff from the last film, and his performance even is nowhere as good. Because, like, you could tell, like, this time around, Hank sounds bored playing the character, because apparently he hated doing these films. And, like, and you can tell it shows in this movie. I like the first one where he actually seemed like he had a bit of fun with the performance. Here, he sounds like he's just done playing the role, and wants to get out of there quick and just take the paycheck. And also, like, the thing is that he also is basically just there to also be a kind of butt monkey the whole entire film. Right there, because most of the time either gets tormented by Azrael, gets tormented by the naughties all the time. It's now more of a silly far figure than the wicked villain he was always supposed to be in the first place. And also, his new scheme gets exposed easy by Patrick and Victor, so he just feels like a complete joke in this sequel compared to the previous film. And could be, like, at least intimidating strong and at least know what he's doing. There, so now that we mentioned Garmel, we get to them where they're now celebrities, because apparently the reason why they became celebrities is because Garmel threw a cab in the air back when he was stuck in New York. Somehow he got the Dragon Wand back, despite that Papa broke it in half and threw it into the water at the end of the last one. Like, how the hell did he find it? What, did he go back to Belvedere Castle? Did he go take a swim in the water and somehow be able to find it in the dirty ass water deep underground or something? And that's the thing, even if he did find it, how did he fix it? Did he just tape it together or something? Like, you don't even see any tape on there. It looks perfectly fine. Or did he find a replica? You don't fucking know. You never know how he got it back. They never explain how in the world he got that thing back. It doesn't matter. Now he's running low on the Smurf essence he got from Papa at the end of the first film. That gives him his magic powers. And now, in our new evil Smurf creations, one other thing I forgot to mention about them. Do you see them get created? No. You see them get created in the trailer, but apparently they take that scene out. So they're just randomly introduced. For no reason. And his plan is like he wants to basically turn them into real Smurfs, but he doesn't have the magic to do so. So he has to create this portal to Smurf Village using the Eiffel Tower so he could kidnap Smurfette, be able to get the spell. But unfortunately, he can't fit through it, so he sends Vexy, Christina Ricci's character, to kidnap her. And because, well, after she got sent on her walk because the Smurfs were being such assholes, she gets abducted, which is technically their fault that happened in the first place. So they go back and inform Papa, who pretty much used the magic from the last blue moon to create crystals that allow a few of his Smurfs to go to the residence of the Winslows to seek help to rescue Smurfette. And originally he wants Brainy Alan Cummings' character, and one other Smurf named Hefty to go there, but Clumsy fucks it up. And that's where we get our useless Jimmy Kimmel cameo of this one Smurf. And then Clumsy basically fucks it up when he's trying to give out the crystals, and ends up causing him, Grouchy, and that other random character that was barely in the first film to go instead. So they arrive at the apartments. Like, during this time, you see the Winslows celebrating Blue's 4th birthday. And this is where Victor, Brandon Gleeson's character, enters the picture, where he arrives to celebrate Blue's birthday, and then pretty much announces, well, because you're all Patrick's friends, you're all my friends. Or, you don't even know these guys. You don't even know these people. And then, of course, literally gives everybody a corn dog. And this one parent who his kid has this peanut allergy asks, are these like peanuts? Like, no, they of course are not peanuts. Go and eat them. Well, you see, the thing is, we dip them in peanut oil. You fucking idiots. You literally say, there's no peanuts in them. But then randomly you say, oh, we dipped them all in peanut oil. You are a fucking moron. Peanut oil is peanuts. Dude. You should have said that first. The same thing. And then basically, I think MPH's character mentions their parents are lawyers, you know. So yeah, so they could have almost got sued for this. So that's that. So, and the Smurfs arrive, and apparently MPH's character doesn't like Brian Gleason's character because apparently, like, took away his actual father's parrots for apparently reasons I'll get to later. But then the Smurfs arrive, and they agree to go off and rescue Smurfette and go to Paris. And that's the thing. Patrick Winslow in this film, where he actually was kind of likable in the first film. Well, to be fair, neither him or Victor are really likable characters. I mean, Victor's not an asshole, but at the same time, he does kind of mess up a lot of stuff for the characters. Like, there's times when you should just listen to MPH at times, and that's the thing, though. When it comes to Patrick Winslow, though, he's become kind of a man-child in this film, who's produced against his stepfather over a parrot. And apparently there was a reason for that later. And he's just unlikable during the entire beginning of the film. And his reason for hating Victor, though, is that reason to hate him is actually kind of pathetic. It really has no sympathy, and really doesn't have much sympathy for his family either. So he just comes off as selfish in this film, and the film is also mean-spirited because in the beginning act, where the Smurfs just decide to be rude, but they're hiding their decorations, even if they're trying to do that for a surprise party, but it makes her feel left out because she had nightmares of turning evil again. So she just feels like an outcast for that reason alone. And it did it as a lame joke. And it's pretty much the reason she gets kidnapped in the first place. So they're all idiots. And pretty much they end up being too late in the end. And so it just shows that they're so deadbeats. And plus, they don't really get reprimanding for that either, or don't get told to apologize for that either. And there's little to no character development for a majority of the characters, especially the two naughties. They don't get an introduction. They're never seen or mentioned again for the film because the film bombed and they got rebooted. So they're pointless to the whole series. And there's so many unnecessary product placements. Like, there's a bit where Azrael, a cat of all characters, has a fucking Facebook account and tries to be all hip with the usage of phones, too. And you can, how did Garble even have a tablet with them? So, when they get to Paris, Patrick and Victor, though, Patrick tries telling Victor to go to the hotel, but Victor kind of ignores him. And even brings his son with him. And even literally brings Blue, their son, with him. Just have pretty much tried to distract Garmo while, though, Victor basically stupidly goes out public, demands Smurfettes, and so Garmo turns him into a duck, though, and Patrick almost gets killed by Garmel during this whole bit. But though the Smurfs are sneaking backstage to look for Smurfette, but they discover Garmel's plan, and Smurfette escapes them, but Vexy encourages Smurfette to try being naughty, be on our side. So, and they want her to be on their side so they could get the formula from her. So once they get back, though, Garmel had learned about Smurfette's birthday from Azrael and decides to fake be nicer to get her on his side. And presents Smurfette with this tiny dragon wand from a toy action figure of his right there. And throughout the little bit, pretends to be nicer for this bit. And at first they basically... And this first think that she's betrayed them, and they give up. And throughout the rest of the film, while Victor just remained a duck, though, he sees this card and thinks that Patrick needs it. But when he comes back, it's like, this is my room key. Well, at least now you have it. Well, and then of course, then by that point, Patrick misses the elevator to go in and help the Smurfs now. And of course, that's when you get the bit where he turns back into human, becomes butt-ass naked, falls into the dirty towels. And of course, then pretty much he's sent, and at that point, you get the third act breakup between them, where he sends Victor away. And apparently it turns out the reason why he got rid of his parrot is because he was allergic to it. And he just lied about that reason. So, and then meanwhile back there, then this causes Patrick to renew confidence in Papa, so they try to go back and rescue Smurfette again. And meanwhile, though, she still refuses to give Garmel the formula, but then the naughty start dying because they don't have Smurf essence, so she doesn't have an alternative to save them, so she has to write the formula down, and it turns them into Smurfs, and then he puts them in the machine to take their essence. So many horrible scenes, just loud and aggravating barks from the whole disgusting fart jokes, especially one with Grouchy, who has a stupid subplot of him turning to positive Smurf, which also is a pointless subplot as it goes nowhere. Right there, and many other scenes get recycled from other films. The whole plot itself even feels like a ripoff of Finding Nemo. Actually, scrap that. Most of the entire movie is a ripoff of that. It's almost even a ripoff of that film Toy Story 2, also from Pixar. Here's why I say that. For one, it has both films have the lead character get kidnapped by somebody, and then the rest of the gang go off to rescue that character. Then that kidnapped character meets two new characters, discovers more of themselves, and now while one doesn't turn evil here, one other did join them in the end. So yeah, it's basically you're literally almost watching the same exact fucking movie as that film. Except the difference is, Toy Story 2 is actually good, actually funny, actually well written, actually emotional. Actually has a heartbreaking scene with Sarah McLachlan's song. This, though, is just basically a shitty version of that. It's got horrible pacing because either the movie goes too fast, drags on for too long, and despite being under 4 minutes, it feels way shorter than that because some scenes go too quick and result in inconsistent editing that makes the film look unprofessional. and like easily there. It doesn't help that they wanted to make the CGI first better. You didn't. You made them look worse. Just as worse as they did in the first film. And you're having references to random R-rated films like either I think Scarface or Surface stuff, or have references to other movies in general that some kids probably still haven't seen yet. So if you hadn't seen that Empire Strikes Back, if you saw us as a kid, you wouldn't really know the references, would ya? No. And just references to almost any random pop culture stuff. And that's the thing, the first one actually had a decent soundtrack. The soundtrack in this is also insufferable to listen to. So now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, Grace, I barely mentioned Grace because she doesn't contribute jack shit to the movie. So I barely mentioned her at all. But she calls Victor to come back and help Patrick, and both of them reconcile. And they basically work together with the Smurfs to rescue Smurfette. But once they get inside, they find Smurfette, they forgive her for giving the formula, and they decide to actually accept the knives with them. But then Gargamel shows up, captures them, puts them in the machine, and powers this large-sized dragon wand. So he can use it to go to the whole village and kidnap the rest of the village. But then Patrick and Victor arrive in time to destroy the machine. And it causes this shitty CGI explosion of essence that basically sucks both Patrick and Victor through an awful CGI vortex that looks like a fart cloud, and the rest of the Smurfs as well, and destroys the formula. And pretty much they get blasted out of the lair through a sewer hole, and this essence is blowing up all over Paris, and almost literally nobody notices any of the shit. Why? Like, there's people walking by, they don't happen to notice this? Why are people so brain dead in these two movies or something? But then they reunite, with Grace and Blue, and then the other three meet them as well. But then Gargamel reappears, but Smurfette blasts him away, all the way to Notre Dame, and a gargoyle comes to life because of his wand, and it bites him in the ass. Which I'll admit, that's probably one of the only funny scenes. Okay, I'll admit, that's one of the only funny scenes in the movie. I'll admit that, because, like, when it bites him in the ass, he screams like this girl, which... So it's kind of a funny bit. That's probably one of the only funny scenes of the movie. I will admit that. That kind of got a chuckle out of me. And it throws him to the top of the Eiffel Tower and blasts him in the air by fireworks, but it doesn't matter because literally in the credits, like, they basically fly through a portal they create, and it sends them back to their castle where they beat each other up. So either way, it just sends them back home. And then they go back home and bid farewell to the Winslows, and then they return home, and they celebrate Smurfette's birthday. The end. Whatever. And you have a Britney Spears song playing during the ending party. The end, it's over. That's how the Smurfs 2 ends. And it's clearly obvious this is how it would go. You know, the first one, at least the first one had a more proper final act where the Smurfs, like, all show up at Belvedere Castle. They fight Gargamel there. That was a proper final act in an actual movie that I could buy more. Here, the final act is our two evil Smurfs and Smurfette get put in machines, but then the others find them, then they get found, and they get rescued by the two human leads, and they get sucked by an ugly fucking CGI vortex that blows up all over Paris, and nobody notices this, and they get thrown out through a sewer pipe. Gargamel gets sent flight to Notre Dame, gets bit in the ass by a gargoyle in one of the only funny scenes in the film, and it gets thrown in the air, and then gets sent back home because he opens a portal. So basically, if Sony was wanting these Smurf characters to be free from this dude forever, well, they basically retconned all that. So much for the studio actually caring about these characters, but it didn't matter because nobody went to see the fucking movie. Like, heck, the other Smurfs, like, you know, when they rudely sent Smurfette away, they don't apologize at the end for what they did, but they act happy as if that didn't happen in the first place, though Papa still should have reprimanded them, still should have made him apologize, but he doesn't. And it don't fucking matter. Whatever. The movie's fucking over. Alright, now do I even have any good qualities for this movie? So, What I will admit, the one bit that does get really any chuckle out of me is Gargamel's defeat. Just really the gargoyle bit, I guess. Now, more about the kid character Blue. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really hate the kid in this film. Granted, to be fair, the kid doesn't really contribute a lot to the movie, but come on. I feel kind of some of the hate for his character is a bit mean-spirited, especially Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critics review, where he kept using the gag whenever the character was speaking, and replaced it with blah gibberish dialogue in those bits. Which, to be fair, that joke was childish and repetitive in his review. And that's the thing, you guys know I never care for Nostalgia Critic anyways. To be fair, the character is only really a taller in this movie, to be honest. And to be fair, I don't think he was really that bad of a character to me. And no, I kind of wish he did play more of a role. Because there's times there's some bits between him and Brendan Gleeson were actually kind of sweet. I did like some scenes those two did have together, and I kind of wish that was the case. Right there. And then maybe that whole Patrick and Victor subplot could have meant a little more. That way. And then maybe it would be a little more bearable. And that's the thing. Like, after this, Jacob did appear in several films I have liked. I liked Room. I liked Wonder. I liked Good Boys. He's briefly for a disturbing murder scene in Doctor Sleep. I liked his brief scenes at the end of The Life of Chuck. His most recent film I liked was Sovereign, which was one of my favorite films of 2025. Sadly, it didn't get noticed by everybody, but to me personally, it's one of the best films of 2025. And I wish that film did get noticed a little bit more. Because I thought it was very underrated and solid. I thought he gave a very heartbreaking, hard to watch performance in that film. And the scenes with Nick Offer in that film are both actually terrific and chilling at the same time. I don't like the characters the people they were adapting in that film, but the reason I liked that film is because the two actors played the roles well, and you could tell there were scenes where they actually did care about one another. In that movie, like the whole film, it was actually favorable to crime case. The shootout was actually intense and scary. And they did a good job making it that way. So I actually thought they did a pretty solid good job at that film. That's why I liked that film. But other than those, this sequel is a fucking atrocity. And it did not do well. It killed this version of the characters, and they had to reboot it again twice. Once computer animated, and that didn't do well. And then they rebooted it years later again by Paramount, and they made it much more annoying. So in the end, The Smurfs 2 is blue horseshit. Anyways, that's in my epic round of Smurfs 2. And we're going to rate the Smurfs 2. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you didn't like the last one, but wait till you see this, because this movie is even more cringy or horseshit than the last one. It makes the last one actually look solid in comparison. If we're going to rate the Smurfs 2, I'm going to give the Smurfs 2 a 1 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up my epic rant for the Smurfs 2. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this epic rant. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.